Welcome to What in the World, a project initiated by Hungry for Life International. Today's podcast is titled Strong Roots, and Jess will be interviewing Joven Antolin. So grab your headphones, sit back, relax, and listen as they talk about what it's been like for Joven and his family to work in the Philippines during COVID.
Well, hello and welcome. Thanks for tuning in to another week of What in the World, Hungry for Life's podcast, where we talk about all sorts of issues related to running a global nonprofit. So we are pretty lucky to have today's guest here with us in office all the way from Philippines. So I want to welcome Joven. Hi, Joven.
Hi, thank you for inviting me. Glad
Thanks
to be
for
here.
flying all the way to Philippines for this, or from Philippines for this interview.
Hey, I came here for lunch, so why not?
It's true. We are feeding you lunch after this. For the interview and for lunch. We're happy to have you. So Joven and his wife, Anita, are our field partners in Boracay, Philippines. They have a ministry called Strong Roots Ministry, and I will let Joven explain a bit about what Strong Roots does in a minute. But let's get to know you a little bit better, Joven. So your wife is from Chilliwack, right?
That is correct, she is.
Okay, and you were born and raised in Philippines.
I was for the first 15 years of my life and then moved to Canada.
And so that leads me to, how did you meet Anita?
I was actually working at the Union Gospel Mission in New Westminster. We have a drop-in center there, and Anita used to come and volunteer. She would wash the dishes, she would mop the floor, and things like that. So that's where we met the first time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, cool. And how long have you guys been married?
Well, actually, we just celebrated our 21st wedding anniversary, July the 8th. So I got out of quarantine and we celebrated. So
right,
awesome.
Yeah, you just got out of quarantine, didn't you?
That's right,
yeah.
That's right.
We had to hold off on this interview until we knew you were COVID-free.
That's correct.
So just a bit about the podcast today. We are just going to be discussing all things Philippines today. So we'll be discussing the current situation in Philippines, how COVID has affected it, and how our partnership kind of came about, and how Hungry for Life and Strong Roots have done ministry together. Whoops.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of the map of the next 25 minutes or so. So can you tell us a little bit about Strong Roots Ministry? What does that encompass?
Okay. Well, actually, we started Strong Roots Ministry 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. It started because of the burden of what we saw. We were just basically being tourists in Boracay, Philippines. We went there and we were driving a motorbike and we were looking about all the surroundings that we have. And we stopped by at this school. And I asked myself the question, for a place that has this absolute beauty, how come there's abject poverty? You know, I see the tourists walking around and enjoying their meals, and then they're enjoying the sun, and I see children walking around with sandals. And I made a crucial mistake that day because I asked the Lord, surely something can be done for such a place like this. I was kind of hoping and expecting that God would just say, yeah, you can send money to a missionary or this and that, but I didn't expect him saying, why don't you come? So that was a shock to me because I was already in a ministry here in Vancouver area. Mm-hmm. And frankly, I'm pretty good at what I do and I like what I do, but I'm not really interested in traveling and moving my family for this. But anyways, because we saw the need and we did ask the Lord what is going to be done, and then the Lord found a way for us to be there 12 years now, and our main objective is to help the community to reach its full potential, especially with the children. So part of the things we do is to provide education for the kids. We have a sponsorship program that allows us to provide assistance to the children, not just to dream, but to be able to fulfill the dream that they wanted to run for. The second part out of that is to try to provide medical assistance to those people who are truly in need in that community. Mm-hmm. It started and it was born in that condition, and it just expanded as we went along. So now we have disaster response, and now we even ended up planting a church. We didn't plan it, but as God would want it, these are all the things that comes along the way.
Right. Yeah. you kind of roll with it. You evolve as needed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Neat. Okay. I want to provide a bit of context to the discussion. So can you give like a brief synopsis of the country in itself, like the economy, what state it's in, and kind of what led Philippines to be in the state that it's in?
Okay. Well, Philippines is, a lot of people don't consider that, but Philippines is a third world country. It is a part of the ASEAN countries in that part of the world. And for its longest time, Philippines has always had its fair share of hardships. There's a big chasm between the rich and the poor. You'll be very surprised because when you go into Manila right now, or at least when you go visit the country, you'll be surprised because you wouldn't think it's a third world country.
Okay.
We have the largest mall in all of Asia.
Oh, yeah.
And when you go in there, it's not just the one, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, there's just bazillions of mall. And to be in fact right now, we have the largest IKEA store in the whole world.
What?
It just opened up. This is
Really?
crazy. But this is what the Philippines is all about. But as you move outside the outskirts of Manila, then you're going to see something else. The shadows behind that are the people that are just in abject poverty, and it just breaks your heart to see where they live. You would find people living underneath the bridge, literally underneath a bridge, not on the floor of the bridge, literally hanging underneath a bridge.
What?
They create houses on that. In fact, I remembered visiting one people there, and while we're inside this underneath the bridge home, they can tell you what kind of cars or trucks that are passing by because they can feel the vibration. That is the way it is.
Wow.
And if you think that is bad enough, you can go to the largest cemetery in Manila, and you would find that there's at least 5,000 people residing in the cemetery.
Really?
This is where they live, just because there are no proper housing for people as such as them.
So why the disparity?
Generally, the biggest problem is always often the government.
Okay.
We have a very corrupt system, and most of the government officials are very rich, and most of the people they serve are very poor. This is just the way it is. It's historically then and now pretty much the same way.
That's not unlike a lot of other countries that we work in.
Absolutely.
You know, the heads, the leaders are doing just fine. And meanwhile, people are living under bridges.
Absolutely.
Literally under bridges.
Literally. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. So narrowing it down to Bora, now I'm getting it all confused because I asked, I needed to settle something. I needed to know if you pronounced it Boracay or Boracay.
Yeah,
and I've learned today. What is it, Joe?
Yeah, the foreigners would often read it exactly the way it was written. So it's Boracay, but the locals would call it Boracay. It's actually a two-word meaning Bora and Kai. Bora meaning white, and then Kai means sand. So it's white sand. So that's the actual word and the actual interpretation of the town.
Okay. Yeah, so there's a bit of a inside joke among staff here that if you lead a team to Philippines, you're very lucky because the island, the white sand island, is beautiful.
It is indeed.
But of course, that's not without a lot of poverty that the tourists don't always see. So it seems like a unsuspecting place to land a ministry. So you kind of mentioned that you were touring there.
That's right.
And then you saw the need. So did it seem strange to you to set up a ministry in the tourist area? Or that's just where God was placing it on your heart, and this is just where it landed? Or did he give you a master plan at the time?
No, absolutely not. When we went there, we had absolutely no idea what these things are all about. It was a shock and a surprise to us at the same time. But I think what happened is that God allowed me to see what Boracay really is. When I asked that question, surely something must be done in a place like this. From that point, I never saw Boracay as a tourist destination because I saw the people. That is beyond the scope of what normal tourists often would see. In fact, what's funny thing about that, I have a brother in Toronto, and they were going to go to the Philippines for a short-term mission trip all over the Philippines. And when I told them, well, why don't you guys come see us? And they responded by saying this, why should we go there? It's a tourist destination. There is no need there. And I actually have to twist his arm to say, will you at least come?
Okay.
If you can come just as a tourist, then it's all fine and dandy. But you might just be surprised. And when they came, not only that they were very surprised at what they saw, they ended up supporting our cause throughout all this time because they realized that there is much more than the white sand beach and the beautiful sun.
Right.
The people are hurting.
Yeah. So there's a guest house there, right?
Yes, we do.
And that's part of the Strong Roots.
That is correct.
Yeah. So, sorry, can you kind of break down exactly all the aspects of Strong Roots Ministry? So there's there's the guest house, then there's the school. Sorry, can you
okay. Well, here is the thing. When God called us to go, and my wife saw that this is actually a calling from God, and not just the husband wanting to go on some interesting destination in the world, we did something rather very different than a typical missionary. Usually nowadays, missionaries, when they decided to go to a mission trip long-term wise, they would join to a mission organization and they would spend at least a year raising funds, trying to find partners, and then settle everything out, and then they go to a mission school before they even get to go to the mission field. We didn't. We sold everything that we have and we just went with no support. We have zero support. Okay. We went there and we have absolutely no idea what we're doing. We had no field partners. We have no support, except the fact that the only thing we did is we asked our church to pray for us, and we took everything that we own and gave it to the Lord and says, Lord, here it is. Tell us what to do. So we land there not knowing exactly what. We had no plan. Right. The only plan that we know is that God says go, we went. Yeah. So 12 years after, we decided we're going to open up a small hotel. And basically, that would do two things. Number one, it would provide for our basic necessities. We do have to survive since we don't have any partners that would support us for the things that we need, our food, our children's education, and even some of our travel. So we have to earn our keep. And having that hotel would allow us to have a personal income. That's number one. But at the same time, having that hotel would also allow us to be able to provide work for the local community. So right now we have 20 staff that have been there since we started, that literally survived because of the fact that we're able to provide them with an employment. And then number three, everything else that comes along the way, i.e. such as a need of the community, then we don't really have to worry about do we have money for it. We can raise it financially ourselves because we would have tourists that would come, and pretty much the whole idea is to have a self-sustaining ministry at some point. Love it. So that was the whole idea. Yeah. But things changed dramatically. So as I said, we started with trying to figure out how to provide education for the children. And we're talking about education. There are public schools there. However, those public schools can only take you so long and so far. So we wanted them to dream. We wanted them to, if they wanted to be nurses or doctors or engineers, we want them to be able to say, you can do that. If you do your share of education, we'll try to fund you. And from that point, we decided we entertained the idea of providing food at the local school. So we started a feeding program. And then we realized there are some children and there are some moms that are sick. We ended up doing an emergency care. Then a storm came by and damaged the whole thing. We realized, well, we have to help people build homes and go to towns and give them food. So we ended up doing that. And then by the time we know it, we ended up having to bring children to Manila for an Expanding Horizon program. And then we realized, hold on, there is no church here. I have never started a church in my entire life, but if God says do it, then let's do it. And we opened up, we started a church called Yapa Community Church. And when we started a church, 90% of our congregation are children. There's only like 10 moms that are come, and sometimes it's very infrequent. And so sometimes people would look at that and they would say, oh, you're running a Sunday school. No. This is a real church, except they're little children. But you know what?
Leaders.
Absolutely. And 12 years from that, now These are grown young people that are more than capable of leading, running worship, even if I'm not here, church is running.
Yeah.
And that is the most fascinating things. You know, when you start young and you invest in their time and you see the difference, yeah, it's long term, it's costly, but it's also very effective.
Yeah.
So, you know, it started as a one program with education. It just accumulated in a whole bunch of things that happens along the way. In fact, on my travel to Vancouver, I was already in Japan in transit waiting for my next flight. I get a message from a fellow Canadian guy that lives in the island. He says, "Is there any way you can help this Canadian guy who is stuck in Boracay right now and he is very ill and he can come home to Canada?"
I saw that on the news.
And so I said, well, let's figure something out because we need to do something. So I was able to find some partners, his family here in the island to see what we can do. And before I came into this office, I'm chatting with them in the Philippines because they didn't know what to do. And I have to do something to help them navigate what's the next process behind that. So it is a
I definitely
continuous
saw that
flow.
on the news this morning. So
Oh, it's just this morning.
Well, I think it was from a couple days ago, but
Okay.
I was just looking stuff up.
Yeah.
He got COVID and then got very sick.
No, he didn't get COVID. He
Oh.
had problem with his liver. He has liver cirrhosis.
Okay,
And-
the headline was wrong then, or it's a different one. I'm not
Okay.
sure. I'll show you at lunch.
You bet. You bet.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a lot
Yeah.
that you guys are undertaking right now.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a little bit of this, a lot of that, and wow, you're the jack of all trades.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so COVID hits,
Mhm.
and what happens to the island?
Well, what happens is when COVID hits, the island went into a standstill.
Yeah.
95% of the income that is derived from that island is tourism.
Yeah.
And since there is no tourism, there is no income. So majority of the people that are there right now are trying to survive on meager access to food security. Maybe sometimes the government would give a little bit of rice for them. Most of them are trying to fish. There's hardly any fish anymore. It's very scarce just
Really?
because of the number of people. Some people have fled and moved to different towns, perhaps that they can do something behind that. We ourselves, my family, got into a major difficulty because we have zero income. There's no way we can earn an income. But yet, in light of that, we have to figure something out to help the community. We can't just pack and go and says we will go to a better country called Canada because at least there we can support ourselves. Well, fine and dandy for some, but I can't leave my people. So everything went into a standstill. People got into real difficulties and hardships. When COVID started in March of last year, all the way up to August, so from March to August, there were at least 15 people that committed suicide. They hanged themselves because they cannot
couldn't see the light.
handle the difficulties that has come. There's also a whole bunch of young women that decided that they're going to end up being pregnant. So they lost all these opportunities and all this hope because things just kind of crashed into them.
Yeah.
I've seen some senior citizens that cannot see the doctors anymore because they have no more money. They all got really sick.
So it's been quite devastating.
It's been terrible. It's been hard.
You know, we've been hearing that from a few of our field partners. The fact that everything is shutting down, people can't access basic necessities to live, and that's what the biggest tragedy is for countries who can't find food.
Well, because because the country is a third world country, there's not enough resources for the whole country to get into.
Yeah.
So some people might get lucky,
Yeah.
but most people are not.
So tell us what happened. Like you just told me that your family has been here in Canada
Right.
since. Can you?
So we had this wonderful plan, February of 2020. It's
right before-
It's been really hard to begin with. To be in fact, let's kind of back it up a little bit. What happened in 2019? There was a major storm that came, and we often use the facility Oasis as a place for people to go when there's a storm. So people would go there so that they can, at least their lives can be spared if their house got destroyed by the storm. There's about 120 people that resided at the Oasis. during at that time when we also have a lot of international guests. This is really quite
wow,
interesting.
okay.
So, but the people realized and understood that this is the way it is. So we packed everything up,
Yeah.
and my in-laws happened to also be visiting for the very first time, and they saw all these things that just happened. The storms came and blew a lot of things, and here I was trying to help 120 people plus our regular guests at the hotel. And my wife, Anita, was driving around town trying to grab people on the streets to bring more people
Oh my
at
goodness.
the Oasis. And then when that settled, a lot of destruction came. A volcano erupted. And that volcano, even though it was quite far away from us, but the ashes just kind of blew and just destroyed a lot of things. So we decided, you know what? It's time for a little break. So we decided we'll go home to Canada with our children, and we will go visit. We'll start in Vancouver. We'll take a long drive to Montana, see Yellowstone, and then we'll go to Calgary, see my sister, and then we're gonna go skiing and all this and that. And then my children came, and everything just got closed.
And that was in Feb.
That was March by then, my
March,
children.
okay.
We decided to go a little bit earlier in February so we can work, so we can pay for all the things that we're gonna need for
Right.
the travel, and everything got shut down.
So they have been here since then.
Absolutely. So they
Yes.
got stuck since March of last year.
And then you went back.
Yes, we were blessed that we have a friend that has a small place in Whistler, and they gave us a time for us to be able to enjoy a little bit of family time.
Awesome.
But while we were doing that, I was actually asking myself, how do I get back? Because most of the places have been shut down, including many of the airports. As the Lord wills it, He gave us an opportunity for me to be able to fly. And I told my family, you guys would have to stay here for two reasons. Number one, there are more resources here than in the Philippines. And number two, the children's education is imperative. They need to be able to continue on with their studies. If they go to the Philippines, the chance of them getting proper education is very slim to none. Jessica's graduating high school. She needs to be able to get things done so she can get prepared for the university. So they stayed. I left.
Okay. I heard just chatter around the office that you were being quite resourceful out in Yapak, and you were helping, or you were getting volunteers to help distribute milk. Was that?
No, what happened was all my staff, obviously, because we have to close down for about a year and a half now, they haven't been working. But I need to make sure that at least some of their basic necessities are met. So I'm trying to find ways and avenues to help them, because they need to survive. Although I cannot give them a salary, I'm able to provide some stipend for them to be able to go on with life. In the meantime, at the same time, these are the very same people that have decided that they're going to volunteer to help with the feeding program. So right now, we are providing meals for people 6 times a day. So my staff would go there and they would do the shopping, and then they would do the cooking, and they would also do the delivery of the food items throughout the island.
Yeah, that's great. It's a way to get people fed who wouldn't have access to that typically.
Absolutely.
That didn't really make sense. Anyways, okay, let's see here. Where do I want to go with this? You haven't had teams in a while.
No.
How has that been? Do you like having teams? Has it been sad not to get some resources out and over, or do you enjoy having teams?
Absolutely. Having teams allows us to do many things. I'll give you an example. One team that came in, that was from my home church at Newton Fellowship Church, they came in there and they were very, very specific. Their responsibility is to make sure that they will run the children's program.
Yeah.
So they did. They went there and they brought toys and things, and they taught Sunday school. Not only that, by the time they left us a lot of materials for the next for the next group of people, or even for us. We're able to utilize some of those materials that they brought. So it was really an amazing way. Another team came in, which is also very, very different. They didn't help us with the ministry. They took care of us personally.
Okay.
Their main objective was, we're not here to help you with the ministry. We're here to take you out of the ministry for a while and give you a short vacation.
Nice.
We didn't go anywhere, but they took care of our meals. They took care of everything else. And that cost us to just be able to have a breather. It's a different ministry, which also we really enjoyed. We truly needed that, a home away from home kind of feel. They threw a party for us,
nice.
Things like that. And then another team that came in as much as just like as recent as last February, because of the storm, they built homes.
Okay.
So each ministry brings in different strength, but I love each one of those because each one of those provide a new way for us to look at things in a different light. So it's not just the resources that they bring, but it's also just them being there makes a big difference for us.
Okay. Yeah, and another question I was going to ask is, like, you've had a lot hit the island. Like, there's been natural disasters, there's been like political, economical, natural disasters that have come your way that you guys have had to face.
Right.
How do you sustain, like, sanity, first of all, or keep up that pace? I mean, one way you mentioned was that the one team gave you a break, but is it hard to not just what's the word I'm looking for? The word is slipping my mind. But like, not break down, but is it hard to just sustain that pace?
Yes and no, especially now that I'm by myself and my wife is not there to help me, which is something that I really miss. We have to come to that thought. I'm always reminded of God being more than enough. You see, if I do all these things in the power of my strength, I would just want to pack my bags and go home. This is just way too much, and it's way too heavy, and it's way too burdensome. Let me give you an example of what that looks like.
Yeah.
There was a couple that came in one morning, and they were in dire need because they have a 2-month-old son named Louis, and he has hydrocephalus, which literally means that there's a lot of liquid on his head, and his head is getting big, and the pressure of that liquid is causing problems in his brain. So these people came because they said they went to see a doctor, and the specialist said they can do an operation, but be prepared to have at least 500,000 pesos. That's about $14,000.
Oh, wow.
Now, when they told me that, they come because they know that I might have some resources. People know if they're in need, come to see Joven.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is, right? Anyway, so they went there, but they're not asking me to cover that fund. They're just asking me for assistance. Maybe 500 pesos, maybe 1,000 pesos, whatever that I can give towards the benefit of their child. Now, having said that, the first thing that came to my mind is simply this. Without telling them, I said, Lord, if you would only let me win the lottery, I really would not have to worry about saying no, because I have the resources that I need. Then I can just say, yes, absolutely, let's get this thing done. I've got the resources that I need. Knowing that I don't have that, I have to come to grips with this. The reality is, I said, Lord, you are the God of all and end all and be all. Just let me know what I need to do for this family. We'll deal with that. So I said to them, I don't have that kind of money, and he needs the operation now. I tell you what, I'm bringing 2 people at the hospital, which is about 6 hours away by bus. I said, I'm bringing 2 people. Why don't I take you guys? And let's see what the hospital will say. It's a public hospital, but I know a lot of doctors there from my dealings with them from the past. And let's just take that hope and see what happens. So I said, don't worry about the cost of the transportation, the cost of the hotel, and the cost of, I'll cover that, but come with me. So they did, but they're very not enthusiastic about it because they're looking at about getting an operation. They're not looking at anything else. So we got to Iloilo At about 8 o'clock at night, I told them that I'll be bringing dinner in their hotel room. And then I just said, like, can I pray for you? Can I pray that God would make an intervention? And we prayed. And then the next morning at 6 o'clock, I took them to the hospital. By 11 o'clock, they came to see me after going inside the hospital. And he says, the hospital will take this child and they will have the operation. And the total cost is 10,000 pesos, which is $250.
Wow.
So when you ask that question, where do I draw that strength? I only draw the strength from God, because He is an immeasurable God that is more than capable of getting things done as He wants to, as He wills it to be. So when things get really hard, I'm on my knees. And when I'm on my knees, I find the greatest strength. It is not that it lies in my capability. It lies in the power of my God. So why I'm able to do this? I know whom I believe, and I'm persuaded that He is able. Nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah, what a great story. What a great testimony of God's power.
Absolutely.
And a great reminder, because it's easy for us North Americans to get caught up in taking control and thinking that we have the power to do everything. And that is just not the case. Thanks for that reminder.
Yeah.
That sometimes there are things that God calls of us that are beyond our capabilities, but that's the point. So, last question here. How can someone or a group care for you and your team? Well, either here or out there.
Oh, that's a loaded question. Several things of note, I think. For obvious reasons, resources are still meager. That still needs to be taken care of. When I say that God provides, I also intend to say that God provides through a whole bunch of different people. Sometimes He does it in a way that we don't see it, but there's goodness and badness. The good thing is God provide. The badness is oftentimes His provision is in your pocket. And when people respond, God is able to do a lot more of those things. And if people don't respond, God will do it anyways in His way. But He wants all of us to become part and participant of all these things. So number one, to those who are listening to this podcast, whether it's my ministry or somebody else's ministry, really, we are asking for you to participate in kind with the resources that you have. If you are able to, there are many of us that are looking for assistance that say, hey, we need this. Are you able to help us with that? Trust me, when you do, you'll be surprised, because you will enjoy the benefit of seeing how things work by the power of God. Number two is your prayer is very much needed. When I say that, yeah, I can do these things because of the power of God, but I still covet that you pray for us. Because many times I don't know what I'm dealing with. And the power of your prayer is very, very important. Number three, if you send us a note on Facebook, just a support of encouragement, it is a really cool thing. I really enjoy people just sending a quick note or pictures to say you were thinking of you, or even send us some stupid jokes that I would end up reading that and laughing. It makes a big difference, because it tells me that there's people behind the scene that are reaching out
and thinking of you
and thinking of me. So that is the coolest thing. And number four, I am away from my family, and it's really, really hard. But if you know my family and you decided you wanted to take them for a treat, would literally bless my heart, because I cannot provide for my family right now. But if I know that is happening, that just lets me know you know what? I can keep on moving because I know my daughter is okay. I know my son's okay. I know my wife's happy. That is half the battle.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about that. I can keep moving on. I can keep pressing on.
Yeah.
So those are the 4 things at least that I can think of at the moment.
Okay, to sum it up, money,
Yeah.
prayer, stupid jokes,
Yeah.
and treat your family.
And treat my family.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And those are great and very practical tips. Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, it is a pleasure. It is a pleasure.
It's just such a treat to have one of our field partners sitting across the plexiglass to actually talk to. If any of our listeners want to know how to donate money to Strong Roots Ministry, they can do that through our Hunger Virus campaign, which is on our website, which is just hungryforlife.org. And there will be prompts to where the Hunger Virus is. I'll also put it in the link to this podcast so that it's a little bit more direct. And I mean, you can be reached on Facebook quite easily.
Absolutely.
Joven Antolin. I'll tag you in this post
Yeah,
so that
please.
people can shoot you a funny joke sometime.
Absolutely. That would be wonderful.
Yeah. I think you have a great sense of humor, by the way.
Thank you.
And shout out to your wife and kids for all that they do here too. You guys do such an amazing ministry, and it's, I'm sure, so hard being away from your family. But you guys operate as like a very unique team that just does so well, and we're happy to support you. I think I was asking our project managers earlier how long we've been partnering with you guys for. Since 2013.
Right.
It's a long time. So
It is.
We hope to do that a lot longer. And
Yeah.
I know there's teams waiting in the wings for when they can go again.
I
And
hope so.
come give you guys a break or help you with your ministry. And yeah.
Absolutely. And actually, you know what? I don't want to miss the opportunity to also do a shout out from my mother-in-law very specifically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because she's a stubborn Dutch lady that really wants to do a million things for us. We're having a car wash this Saturday. It was not our idea. I'm still in the Philippines. So she's already planning all of these things. It is because of the fact that she feels that she has a place in the ministry. And it's not just because we're related. She felt in her heart that this is something that she can do. Let me put this one last story.
Yep.
When I was telling you that there was a storm that was coming, this storm was blowing away houses, and she was calling me from Chilliwack. And she was saying, what can we do for you? I said, can you call in a day afterwards? Because like we're in the middle of the storm. And she's out there trying to bang the drums already, trying to find support. So I really wanted to take this moment to thank my mother-in-law, Linda Stam, for being able to be a part of the work that we do in the Philippines. There's a lot more things that we have done because of her ability and her desire to help. So thank you. Appreciate
Thanks,
that.
Linda. That's great. And where's the car wash?
The car wash is at Newton Fellowship Church
In Surrey, right?
In Surrey,
Yep.
at 10:30 in the morning up to 3:30 in the afternoon. It is not just a car wash. There will be bouncy castles. There will be some baked treats. There will be some candies. There will be some stuff for children to do. You can bring your car, you can bring your bike, you can bring your dog, you can bring your dirty clothes. We will wash them all so that the people in my community will benefit. And best of all, you go there and you can see me in person before I leave again on September 8th. Say hi to me. I'd appreciate that.
Sure. And, as you're saying all this, I'm realizing this podcast is not going to air before then, but maybe we can take this snippet out and post it on our Facebook page so
Not
that
a
people
problem.
will know. Either way, we will get the word out.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
Anyways, thanks again. And I'm sure our stomachs are growling. We need to go have lunch. So
There you go.
that's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to What in the World, where we seek to educate and inspire. Here at Hungry for Life, we are passionate about your group having a global impact and eradicating needless suffering. For more information, head over to our website at hungryforlife.org. And you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you may listen to podcasts. Tune in every other week for another conversation about what is happening at Hungry for Life.